Howdy folks, Spencer here, and today I want to talk to you about the brand new playable Borg ship that is going to be going to the Infinity Lockbox tomorrow, December 5th, for those of us on PC, and sometime in January of 2024 for those of you on console. This is the Borg Assimilator Miracle Worker Dreadnought Carrier, and it is from the old PC game Star Trek Armada, and you've seen it introduced into Stowe, replacing many cubes in content over the past couple of months. As always, chapters are listed down below. And before I get too far into things, I do want to explain why the format is a little bit different today. I'm going to save the PowerPoint for a proper review. I have a T6 Infinity choice pack sitting in my bank, so when the patch drops tomorrow, I will go in, pick the ship up, and I'll probably go live sometime in the afternoon, just testing the ship and its accessories out. The other reason I'm doing it in this format is because the accessories on this ship have some issues, and I think Cryptic needs to get out there and address them sooner rather than later. And there's a clip from a recent 10 forward that I want to play here that may explain why the trait and the passive on the console are what they are. So let me play this here for you quick, and keep attention to Kale's face and Jonathan's over here as this exchange happens.
All of my timelines are on hold as as Jakar put it, enter a time of transition. I don't really know what the future will hold for my various schemes and things that I had like in flight under the hood. All that
just
stuff
because
is
we're
question marks right now.
just because we're looking at the schedule for the new year and planning some things around. Sorry, Jonathan, to cut you off. The way you said that sounded a little more dire than it actually is. So I wanted to make sure people knew. It's just because we're diving into schedule stuff, like Jared was talking about.
So basically right there, some of the things Jonathan's been working on are on hold while they're figuring things out, because even though the Stowe team wasn't directly impacted by the layoffs, you gotta remember Cryptic was moved from Gearbox to Deca Games, so they're just trying to figure out what the plans are moving forward. And I think this ship's accessories, the ship itself is fine, to be clear, but the accessories, I think maybe got a little bit less time than they typically would. The Clicky on the console and the pets, those seem fine, but the console passive and the Starship Trait, well, you're about to see there's some issues there. So let's start off with the Starship Trait, Targeted Excision. While this trait is slotted, activating Beam Overload or Cannon Rapid Fire will activate rank 1 versions of both abilities on your Hangar Pets. Those of you that fly carriers and are familiar with carrier things are going to sit there wondering, don't we already have that? The answer is yes. Coordinated Assault is a Starship trait that you can get off of a couple different C-Store ships, and most notably, these are C-Store ships that have existed since 2015. So the trait on the Borg Assimilator is basically a copy-paste of a Starship trait off of C-Store ships that are over 8 years old. Now, Coordinated Assault is slightly weaker, to be clear. With Coordinated Assault, when you activate Beam Overload, you only get Beam Overload on your Hangar Pets. If you also want Rapid Fire on your pets, you would have to hit Cannon Rapid Fire. Whereas with the Assimilator version, activating either Beam Overload or Cannon Rapid Fire will get you both abilities on your pets. So it works closer to what Superior Area Denial is like. The issue is that what this does can be achieved by simply having both Beam Overload and Cannon Rapid Fire on your build if you're trying to maximize Coordinated Assault. So the value there is not really great. This is a $30 C-Store ship trait versus the Assimilator here, which being a lockbox ship is going to cost you like $100 for a single character. Everything that this trait does is achievable just by having both those abilities on with Coordinated Assault. So yes, it's technically better, but it's not good enough given what this ship is going to cost. If they want to have a trait like this, if that's what they want to do, then it needs to be comparable to Superior Area Denial, where there's another effect on it. So if you look at Superior Area Denial, alongside giving Fire at Will and CSV when you hit either FA or CSV, it also gives a damage resistance debuff to any foes that you hit. all they had to do to make this trait on the Assimilator a good option for carrier players that want that beam overload or rapid fire on their pets was to go in and add in a debuff like Sad has. That's all they had to do, but they didn't do that. So I think right there, they need to go in and add something else to this trait, because as is, it is a joke for a $100 plus character only ship to have a trait that in effect is basically identical to a $30 C-Store ship trait that you can get on account-wide unlock. It just isn't acceptable in my opinion. They need to add something else to it. Debuff like Sad would be one way to go. I imagine they could figure something out. Now, the other copy and paste job here with the accessories is on the console passive. This is the disassemble and analyze console, which I'll get into more in a few minutes, but the passives on it are a passive bonus to hull restoration, crit chance, and Hangar Pet crit chance. Some of you may be thinking, well, that's fine. You know, those are all good. The issue with this is that just a couple months ago, Cryptic introduced the Friendship Command Flight Deck Carrier. And guess what its console has for its passives? The exact same thing. And from what I've heard, the numbers on the Borg Assimilator console are pretty damn close to what the Friendship one has. So rather than just giving us a copy-paste of something that already existed, they could have just changed some of the stats around. They're giving Hangar Pets a ton of crit chance. Maybe give it, a passive crit severity buff for your Hangar Pets, just so that they can better benefit from all the crit chance that they're getting. There's a few different ways that they could have went about that, but just copy pasting the passives off of a console that they introduced just a couple months ago, that's a bit underwhelming, and I would very much like to see them change that, especially if they changed it over to crit severity. I think that would be much better for the value of all the carrier stuff that they're introducing into the game. And aside from the copy and paste issues, honestly, the console and the Borg Assimilator Pro but Frigate Pets are both going to be quite interesting. So starting off here with the Borg Assimilator probes, this ship has 2 hangar bays, and with these being frigates, each bay should be able to have 2 out, so you should be able to have a total of 4 of these things out at a time. And these are drill-shaped vessels equipped with multiple assimilated plasma beam rays. When they defeat an enemy, they are capable of drilling into its hull, preventing a warp core breach, and they'll assimilate the vessel. The damage that these pets do will increase based on the foes that they assimilate, ranging from a plus 25% damage buff when they assimilate frigates, up to a plus 100% buff when they assimilate a Dreadnought. So they have potential to do more damage over time just by assimilating larger ships. You just have to keep them alive so that they don't lose that buff. And the console here does synergize with that, and I will bring that part up from the PowerPoint because I think that'll explain it better. The Clicky here on Disassemble and Analyze, if it's used on an enemy foe, it will hold that foe in place while extracting samples, it'll drain their shields, deal kinetic damage, and it will give you crit chance. But if you use this on a friendly assimilated ship, so any ship that's been assimilated by the one assimilation console we got a couple years back, or whatever your pets assimilate, then this will give a crit H bonus to all of your Hangar Pets that will persist until leaving the map. And I have to imagine that's just the pets alive at the time, so if you have a pet die, I would imagine then the new pet that spawns in isn't going to automatically get the buffs that your prior pet had. So if you're going for that, definitely try to get like Scramble Fighters on to keep your pets alive. I think the console, though, is interesting with that Clicky. Again, the passive's not bad, it's just the fact that we already had it. So if they just changed it over to like Hangar Pet Crit Severity, that would be much more appealing in my opinion. And even for the trait, I mentioned they could put like, a debuff on like Sad, but they could also just put Hangar Pet Crit Severity. Give, like, if you have this trait, maybe your pets get like, 50 to 100% crit severity. That would be pretty good and make this trait much more desirable, but the debuff would also certainly be a perfectly fine option. And heading over to the stats now, starting at the top, this has a hull modifier of 1.45, a shield mod of 1, it's a 5-2 weapon setup, 3 device slots. For the bridge officer setup, it's a lieutenant commander tactical, commander engineer with miracle worker, so it does get that extra universal console slot. a Lieutenant Commander Science with Command, Ensign Universal, and a Lieutenant Universal. So if you want to take advantage of the command, you're probably going to be doing a Concentrate Firepower 3 or a Suppression Barrage 1. And if you do that, you can't run a Gravwell 1. So that is a limitation with this ship. And if you're wanting to run like a Beam Overload 3 plus a Torp Spread 3, you can't do it on this ship, unfortunately. You're only going to be able to fit one rank 3 TAC firing mode on this ship. So just keep that in mind. For the consoles here, 2 tactical, 5 engineering, 4 science, plus the 1 universal. And when you take this up to T6X2, that would have room for up to 3 universals. So if you wanted to run isomags on this, you could run up to 8. And if you wanted to run those Hangar Pet advanced consoles that were introduced at the same time as isomags, you could also run up to 8 of those. And if you're not familiar with those are the Hangar Craft Power Transmission. When I tested those on stream shortly after their release, 7 of them basically doubled my pet damage. The only issue is that they rely on your pets ranking up to get a larger buff. So you need to keep your pets alive, and you also want to use the Wing Commander personal trait here to get your pets to rank up faster. Thankfully, Wing Commander is quite cheap on the exchange, and those Hangar Craft consoles are also quite cheap on the exchange because isomags have had the most attention, so you should be able to get a full set of those for not too much money. Next up is the turn rate, which is 7 here, impulse mod of 0.15, inertia rating of 200, which is crazy high. That basically means this ship is not going to turn well, but when you want it to stop, it's going to stop. For the power bonuses, this is a Miracle Worker ship, so it does get a bit more than normal. +5 to weapons and shields, +15 to engines and aux. It can equip dual cannons. It has 2 hangar bays, not 1, as the Hangar Pet section down below had noted. So 2 hangar bays, and it's got the stuff that you see on any other Miracle Worker ship, so the innovation mechanic and that slightly better quantum slipstream drive. And for the mastery package, it's the carrier one, so hangar launch recharge speed, max hull capacity, plus energy and kinetic damage, and plus max shield capacity. And for the Admiralty stats here, 66 engineering, 40 science, 20 TAC, plus 6 TAC per any ship. Now for the comparison here, the ship that most resembles the Borg Assimilator is the Zenkethi Zentar. Basically, the Borg Assimilator has a lot of things that the Zentar has, they're just flipped around. So these ships are very comparable. If you liked the Zenkethi Zentar, the Borg Assimilator is very, very close. The difference is the commander is an engineer instead of a TAC. The universal seats are a little bit different. So on the Zentar, it's a Lieutenant Commander Universal with command, whereas on the Assimilator, that command is locked to a science, and instead you have a Lieutenant plus Ensign Universal. So both setups are fine. They're not as flexible as some of the other ships on the market, but you can set either up perfectly fine. And you can see here, it's just a lot of things flipped around between these two ships, so they are quite comparable. I think if you were doing a more traditional like Spire TAC console setup, the Zenkethi Zentar would probably be better. And if you're looking to focus a bit more on like isomags or those Hangar Craft advanced engineering consoles, then the Borg Assimilator is probably going to be the better choice for you. So Zenkethi Zentar for actually boosting your weapons up, Borg Assimilator if you want to try and boost your pets a bit more. And to wrap things up, I think that the Borg Assimilator is a very solid platform. Whether you're someone wanting to just fly another carrier, or you're wanting to put together a Borg theme build, I think that you're going to enjoy this ship quite a bit. Now, the obvious issue with it is, of course, that it's a lockbox ship, meaning that it is going to be quite expensive. Typically, if you're going through the exchange and you're selling master keys, you're going to be looking at somewhere around $100 to get this ship for a single character. So it is pretty expensive, and thankfully you will have it as an option in the event campaign in 2024. Now, there are some issues with this ship. The console passive is a copy and paste of the Friendship console from earlier this year, and I think given the amount of crit chance they're giving Hangar Pets, it might be beneficial for them to change that over to plus Hangar Pet crit severity instead, just to give those crit chance items a bit more value. And especially given that the Clicky on the Assimilator console will potentially give Hangar Pets even more crit chance. And then the big issue is, of course, the Starship Trait. Given the price of this ship, it is unacceptable to me that this is basically a copy and paste of a $30 C-Store ship trait. It technically, it's improved, but in practice, it is as effective as Coordinated Assault. They need to go in and add something else to it, whether that be, some debuff like what SAD has, or plus Hangar Pet crit severity. Whatever it is, they need to do something, because as is, that is a joke, and it needs to be changed. But that's going to be it for today. Reminder, I will be picking this ship up and testing it out on stream tomorrow, December 5th, sometime in the afternoon. So if you want to see how the console and the pets perform, make sure to stop by. That's going to be it for today. Thank you again to all channel members and viewers for the continued support. See you guys around.